Angeline Tadaweo hosts The Block.
Afrobeats to jazz, hip-hop to R&B, calypso, Kez the Band, Michelle Montano, Bob Marley, Bounty Killer. So we really give all these artists a chance to shine, and the key is in the programming, in making it make sense, and making sure that the music is a fluid experience.
The Block with Angeline Tadaweo. Available now on CBC Listen.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show. Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Rosanna Hempel in Winnipeg. At 12 o'clock, it's 17 in Winnipeg. Sunny and cloudy today, a high of 21. Winnipeg's chief administrative officer has resigned as head of the city's civil service. CBC's Cameron McLean reports the announcement comes less than a week after a scathing report on the city's workforce.
The city announced this morning that Michael Jack submitted his resignation to the Mayor and Executive Policy Committee. The announcement doesn't state a reason for his resignation. It comes less than a week after an audit of the city's workforce found a lack of processes for reviewing staff and progress on key goals. Deputy Mayor Janice Lukes told reporters accountability and performance reviews are important to improving city services. Lukes says it is unacceptable that those issues were not addressed, although she did not call for Jack's resignation. Jack has worked at the city for 24 years. His last day will be June 28th. An interim CAO has been appointed until a permanent replacement is found. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Chainsaws are buzzing in Deline after a severe storm with strong winds roared through southwest Manitoba over the weekend. Environment Canada says winds in Deline were recorded at 101 kilometers an hour at 1 Sunday morning. Kelly McMecken is the reeve of the RM of Deline Winchester. He says the storm cut a path through town, leaving damage in its wake.
Camper that was overturned just beside the campground, and then there was some trees that were uprooted and broken off just a block to the east of that. And then when you go another block, the roof of the Legion, the metal on the roof was all rolled up on top.
McMecken says a tree went through the roof of another home, a garage door was torn off at a different home, and he says north of town a group of grain bins were caved in on one side. Environment Canada says the strongest wind was recorded in the tiny community of Dand, north of Deline, at 123 kilometers an hour. Winnipeg Transit Plus is launching a new way for its users to book trips. A new cutting-edge system by Canadian company Spare Labs will mean people can book trips in more ways 24 hours a day. It's being called a barrier-free service, which will mean they can book online, through an app, or by calling the customer service line. Vivi Dabi, who is visually impaired and works with the CNIB, was part of the consultations for the new system.
Power can be placed in the hands of the customers to enable them to access service and attain autonomy to plan and negotiate their trips in the way that works best for them.
Winnipeg Transit says the changes will improve route planning and encourage more vehicle ride sharing. The new app will be available to the public starting July 9th. Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May is calling on Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to read the unredacted committee report on foreign interference. She says it would allow all the party leaders to discuss and better understand the findings of the report.
I think we'll make progress when we can sit down together and discuss it together, such that if there are differences of interpretation, we can get into details and discuss them, which we can't do in news conferences, which we can't do on the floor of the House of Commons, without risking trespassing into areas of intelligence that we must respect, have to remain top secret.
The Conservatives say if Poilievre were to read the report, he would be sworn to secrecy, and they insist that would prevent the leader from taking action. The report examines foreign interference in the Canadian political process, and at this point, the only major party leader who hasn't read it is Pierre Poilievre. It's the kind of news a growing number of people are turning away from.
Maybe tens of thousands are struggling to...
We've just heard a siren go off for the first time.
Landslide decimated a remote area in the middle of the night.
A global study says so-called news avoidance is now at record high levels. Dominic Velitis has details.
Nearly 95,000 people across dozens of countries were surveyed for this year's digital news report by the Reuters Institute. It found 39% of them were now actively avoiding the news, an increase of 10% when compared to 2017. Nick Newman is the lead author of the report.
Part of that is obviously the negative nature of the news agenda. People have lived through COVID, cost of living. You've got the wars raging in Ukraine and Gaza. So people talk to us about, world news being too depressing.
The report also found that general interest in the news is waning, especially among younger audiences. And although people's overall trust in the news remains steady around the world, it continues to fall in Canada, with 20% fewer people trusting the news today when compared to 2018. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, London.
The U.S. Surgeon General is calling on Congress to put warning labels on social media platforms. Dr. Vivek Murthy says the labels should be similar to those on cigarette packs. Murthy says social media can significantly harm young people's mental health. The labels would remind parents there isn't enough evidence to prove social media is safe for adolescents. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30.
Hello, Manitoba. Happy Monday. I hope the day's going well for you. Thanks for joining us today for Radio Noon. I'm Janet Stewart. After prom celebrations and grad ceremonies, it's time to hit the job market. What challenges have you been finding a job? Coming up after your 12:30 news, an HR expert guides us through job hunt hurdles, like crafting a resume that survives screening software so you actually have a chance of success. The parade is often the focal point of pride. But in Brandon, Saturday's march acted as a procession to a very personal event. We'll meet the couple who got married as part of Pride coming up. But first, what kind of storm did you experience this weekend? The wind that blew through Saturday into Sunday was so strong in parts of Manitoba, it left Manitoba Hydro and homeowners with a huge cleanup. Hydro says it's been working to repair significant damage caused by storms over the weekend. Extreme winds knocked down trees and hydro infrastructure. Prolonged outages are expected in Brandon and Killarney, as well as Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa, Russell, Verdun, and the Portage la Prairie region. Natalie Hazel is a warning preparedness meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada. This morning, she described to us where the winds were the strongest.
Around 1 a.m., we saw reports of really strong wind gusts. Dand gusted to 123 kilometers an hour, Bede to 101, Deline to 101, Wascata to 91 kilometers an hour. Making its way forward to 2 a.m., we see gusts in the 90 to 100 kilometer hour range. Souris, Macaulay, Sinclair, Boissevane, Reston, Kola. And then by 3 a.m., Lakeland, Birtle, Brandon in the 90 to 95 range. And then 4 a.m. it's at Hamiota, 5 a.m. it's at Fork River. We saw storms here in Winnipeg too in the overnight. We are aware of a few reports, but we haven't been able to confirm whether what happened near Shiloh was actually a tornado. But with these types of storms, as you know, you don't need a tornado to cause these winds. It could be a plow wind. I know that we got a few reports of large hail around midnight on 15th going into the 16th. So Toonie-size hail in Glenborough, Toonie-size hail in Nisbet, golf ball-size hail after that again in Glenborough. So, all of these things would support that we had a very strong updraft, because you would need a strong updraft for strong hail to occur. There's a pretty good chance that this was straight line winds as opposed to a tornado. It could have been a combination of the two, I suppose. If you looked at radar during this time, it was very much looking like in more technical parlance, a bow echo, or a kind of a multi-cell line. And those are typically associated with strong straight line winds. There's the occasional tornado with these systems in the curves of the line, or the bookends of the line. But generally speaking, they are propelled by a strong jet, and they produce strong winds at the surface. In the middle of the night is not the best time. It's really hard to make decisions. It's really hard to take shelter if you're not in the right place to do that. Everything is slowed down. So perhaps as a general safety tip, you know how you do fire drills at work? At least most places that are large enough do. Well, you should be doing drills in your home. Make sure that everybody knows where to go, so that if something does happen in the middle of the night, like in this case, you don't have to make decisions in the middle of the night. You've already made them. You just have to go through the motions and get to your safe spot. Figure out where the best place to take shelter is. Remember to stay away from windows and doors, hail events, lightning events, just by themselves, but hail events, wind events, and we want people to take shelter in a real basement if possible, or a small interior room with as many walls between you and the outside, so that, when wind causes damage and damage becomes debris and flying projectiles that can then impale and pierce walls, that way people are in the safest spot they can be in.
Natalie Hazel is a warning preparedness meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada. Now, Environment and Climate Change Canada says the winds at the weather station in Deline were recorded at 101 kilometers an hour at 1 a.m. Sunday. But Natalie Hazel says they may have actually been stronger. Kelly McMecken is the reeve of the RM of Deline. This morning, he explained to CBC News what happened.
Saturday night or early Sunday morning, I guess it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, the storm hit. And although there was like a bit of damage throughout the town, there seemed to be a definite path from the Elks Park entrance to Deline and angling northeast through the town. So there was a camper that was overturned just beside the campground, and then there were some trees that were uprooted and broken off just a block to the east of that. And then when you go another block, there's the roof of the Legion. The metal on the roof was all rolled up on top, and that's there was some trees broke off there as well that did some slight damage to a home beside the Legion. There was another home next to that one that the garage door and the garage wall were damaged. Then across the street from that, still going northeast, there was a lot of shingles tore off a house and a small garden, well, not real small, like a 10 by 12 garden garage that was lifted and tossed into the neighbor's yard. And then you go another block east of that, there was a hydro pole that was twisted off and many trees twisted off that could have been a lot worse, but there wasn't. And then you go a little farther east than that, there was a tree that fell fell down and went through the roof of a house. And then there's an agribusiness that's there that some hopper bins had been tossed about, hopper bins and augers. Then there's a machine shed a little bit farther east than that there was the door, the big door on the machine shed was blowing in. And that's what happened in town that I'm aware of. Just outside of town, I see damage to the Patterson grain. There was 5 hopper bins that are caved in on one side. Just a little bit to the southwest of that, there's a pole barn structure that I guess was damaged. I haven't actually seen that, but I've heard that. So those are the damages that I'm aware. There's some of the branches that fell on automobiles, so there's some automobile damage that way because they were big trees that were twisted off or broken off or whatever. And some of them were uprooted, some of them broke off halfway up. It was quite a storm.
No kidding. I mean, did you hear it? Like, or were you awake for it?
I wasn't in Deline. I was in my camper up at Lake Manitoba. So, but everyone that I spoke to was woken up by the loud storm, and they said the wind was severe kind of before the thunder and lightning started. I think most of the power has been restored. I know that the power to the hospital was restored in pretty good time. Yeah, there was some power outages for a bit of time.
That's Kelly McMecken, the Reeve of the RM of Deloraine, speaking with the CBC's Megan Ketchison this morning. You know, when that storm was moving through, all I could think of when you heard how loud, how hard that rain was falling, you heard the big crashes of thunder. What was it like for people who were camping? In a trailer, it might have sounded nice, but what if you were in a tent? If you have a story to share about your experience camping through this weekend storm, I would love to hear it. Give me a call. Leave a message for me at 204-788-3797.
You have lots of questions about your own life and this really complex world around you. I'm Saroja Coelho. I'm the host of the new live call-in show, Just Asking. I take your questions about what's in the news or your finances, health, even your relationships, and then throw them to an expert. Just Asking. Let's figure it out together.
Just Asking with Saroja Coelho. Live Saturday afternoon at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, and on CBC Listen.
It is 12:16. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. My name is Janet Stewart. Thanks for joining us today. When times are tough, people often realize what's really important in life. That was certainly the case for Anastasia Gibson. We're going to hear her love story coming up on Radio Noon. Grad season is in full swing, has been for a while now, so next step, find a job. As companies lean on software to screen job applicants, we get advice on what you can do to get past those hiring robots. Share your stories of job hunting after the 12:30 news and weather with our HR special guest giving us advice. We want to hear from you. Right now, let's hear about the weather forecast. The temperature today, the high for Winnipeg is supposed to be 21 degrees, and right now we are sitting at 18. So we've got a little bit of a ways to go today. We're sitting at the Forks, 18 degrees at the airport. It's a mostly cloudy day, but I'm seeing lots of blue sky and sunshine. Portage, same thing. Portage Southwest Airport, mostly cloudy, currently sitting at 18 degrees. In Lynn Lake, it's partly cloudy. In Gillam as well, mostly cloudy. Mainly sunny in Dauphin. Enjoy that, Dauphin. The Brandon Airport, partly cloudy. Barons River is seeing a mainly sunny day. Riley Lachuk is our weather specialist, and he'll join us after the 12:30 news with a full look at your Manitoba forecast. The parade or march is often the focal point of Pride celebrations. In Brandon on Saturday, the Pride March acted as a kind of inclusive community procession to another big event. In Rideau Park, in front of an archway draped in flowers, Wendy Friesen married her partner, Anastasia Gibson. The newlyweds join us now by Zoom. Congratulations, you two.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, Anastasia, how did things go on your wedding day?
Well, I think they went magically.
we had wonderful weather, which was based on what what you were just talking about with the other interviewer. We were really concerned. There were tornadoes that were touching down around us on Friday, and they were predicting severe thunderstorms coming into the area throughout Saturday, and that didn't happen at all. We actually had beautiful weather. It was slightly cloudy, but that was very comfortable and great for pictures. And it was magical because it was kind of like, I don't know, the heavens just allowed us to have this day and this night. And it was as soon as the wedding reception or the pride reception was over at 2 a.m., then the fire and the fury came back again with the rain and such. But it was almost like I said, like something was fighting off the weather that whole day. And yeah, it was wonderful.
So Wendy, tell me why you wanted to get married after the Pride March. Why was that important?
I think it was important to get married after the Pride March because we wanted to we wanted to set an example for everybody else that pride doesn't stop because of all the problems that we're facing across Canada with the adversity and all these things that are happening. We are here, we are queer, we are not going anywhere, and we want people to be not afraid to live their authentic lives and keep showing pride and keep moving forward. I think that's really important right now because these are the times when we're needing to do this most.
You need a certain resilience to get through marriage. I've been married 30 years. How do you guys know? And I know you've been tested recently. Anastasia, maybe talk to me a little bit about that. How did you know that Wendy was the person you wanted to be by your side forever?
Well, I mean, there was, as soon as I met Wendy, my goodness, I mean, look at her. She is absolutely gorgeous. That is, like a lot of folks, we met online. But Wendy was different. Wendy was beautiful, but she was also very kind and caring. And right away, I knew that this is somebody that I just needed to have in my life. And that happened from the moment I met her and just hadn't stopped.
But you've been tested. You haven't had an easy ride of late. Tell me about what that's been like, Wendy and Anastasia, whoever wants to pick up the story from here. You've been tested.
Well, yeah, I'll just speak to this briefly, but I was not long after Wendy and I moved in together. I was diagnosed with stage 3C colon cancer and had to go through surgery, rounds of chemo, and the diagnosis didn't occur right away. So again, there was a lot of trips to the hospital, just really a lot of medical concerns. And Wendy was an absolute rock and an absolute angel throughout that entire experience. Janet, I would not have gone through it. I don't think, had it not have been for Wendy. Wendy, amongst other folks, saved my life.
It's such a thing, Wendy, and I can see you rolling your eyes and trying to be modest, but it's a tough thing to go through 4 rounds of chemo and major surgery. What has this journey taught you about Anastasia?
This journey has taught me if you can get through something like a cancer diagnosis of what we've done, then anything is possible because it's a matter of if you're strong, you need to show it. And if you're not strong, you're going to become strong. And I think it's really important because, again, it shows other people that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. I mean, this is kind of what life is about. And this is how you overcome things by, taking whatever comes your way and sticking it to it and showing other people they can do the same no matter what kind of adversities they face. I think it's really important to do that. Never stop living, never give up. That's the most important thing I could ever tell anybody.
And Anastasia, how you feeling?
I feel great. All of the tests so far have shown that there's no cancer present, and my energy level is wonderful. It's actually better than it was prior to the diagnosis and the treatment. I've been back to full-time work since January, and there hasn't been any stopping us. Wendy and I, there's a fire under our bottoms right now, where that we have more energy. We want to continue to be advocates for the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, and being able to do this wedding in such a public forum. I think hopefully not only is it wonderful for us, and I want to give a shout out to Brandon Pride right now, because they were instrumental. They had organized this. They had curated this and really kind of opened the seas so that we could do our wedding in this wonderful environment and in this wonderful context. So a big shout out to Brandon Pride. But Wendy and I are staunch advocates, and we see that as being a very important part of our lives.
Brandon is an incredible community, even outside of being in the 2S LGBTQIA plus community here. Everybody shows up, everybody pulls together, everybody backs a cause. This place is setting, in my opinion, an example for not just Manitoba, but Canada, for what community is all about. And I'm so proud to live here and be here. I've never experienced anything like that. And it's really incredible when you know everybody in town and everybody is at your celebration and doing it for you and backing you. It's an incredible feeling, and I'm so proud and happy to be here. And I too would like to give a shout out to Brandon Pride community, because they are incredible.
Thank you both for joining us today, and congratulations.
Thank you again.
Anastasia Gibson and Wendy Friesen got married Saturday in Brandon's Rideau Park as part of the day's Pride celebrations. The Prairie Joggers from Winnipeg with Carolina. Okay, it's time to open the phone lines. We want you to call in and tell us, how has your job hunt been going? What challenges have you faced? And what tips do you have to help others find success? We have Tori McNally joining us. She's Vice President of Human Resources Services for Legacy Bows. What questions or comments do you have? 204-780-0893. Right now, it's 12:30.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Rosanna Hempel in Winnipeg. At 12:30, it's 18 degrees in Winnipeg. Sunny and cloudy today, a high of 21. Winnipeg's chief administrative officer has resigned from his job as head of the city's civil service. The city announced this morning Michael Jack has submitted his resignation to the mayor and executive policy committee. The announcement from the city doesn't state a reason for his resignation. It comes less than a week after an audit of the city's workforce found a lack of processes for reviewing staff performance and progress on key goals. Jack has worked at the city for 24 years. His last day will be June 28th. It's a day of cleaning up after winds stronger than 100 kilometers an hour tore through southwest Manitoba over the weekend. Environment Canada says the wind clocked 101 kilometers an hour in Deline around 1 Sunday morning. Reeve Kelly McMecken says a camper was flipped over, the metal roof on the Legion peeled back, a garage door blew in, and a tree went through the roof of a house. He says broken trees and shingles are everywhere. McMecken says the community is pulling together to clean up.
Yesterday there was just a buzz of chainsaws throughout the town. We had the Public Works Department was all in working, and we have some local tree crews that were busy working and cutting and cleaning up trees, and saw a few farmers with front-end loaders and carts hauling trees out.
Environment Canada says the storm cut a swath from southwest Manitoba near the Saskatchewan border all the way to Brandon in the early hours of Sunday. It says an investigation will determine if it was a straight line of winds or if there may have been rotation in some areas. The City of Winnipeg and Indigenous organizations and governments are partnering to develop a plan to restore green spaces. First Nations, Métis, and Inuit organizations will work with the city on policies and plans to enhance and protect green spaces. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says integrating Indigenous knowledge and urban planning is vital to preserving spaces. And people who use Winnipeg Transit Plus will have new ways to access rides. Today, it announced a new paratransit booking system created by Spare Labs, Inc. Teresa Platt is the manager of client services. She says people in the community have been asking for a barrier-free service with more options to book rides.
With the new system, our customers will be able to always call us directly, but they'll also have the option to choose a web form, a web platform, the app, and an automated service, both of which are available 24 hours a day.
Platt says the new booking system will make it easier to coordinate routes and encourage more ride sharing. The new system will be up and running for the public July 9th. That is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 1:30.
Thank you so much, Rosanna Hempel.
You're welcome.
Riley Lachuk joins us now. What a weather weekend.
Yeah, we'll continue with the theme of the winds that we've been, of course, hearing earlier in the show and in the news. A few more stats for you, Janet. When that was and when that's coming.
Okay.
So, I don't know, maybe it sounds a bit cryptic, but today we're looking at winds staying relatively calm across much of Manitoba, but they do pick up as we get into the day tomorrow once again. Just wanted to quickly touch on some of the other wind peak winds that we saw throughout the day on Sunday. Dand, which is a locale sort of between Deline and Hartney, 123 kilometer an hour winds yesterday. Fork River, north of Dauphin, 101 kilometers yesterday. Deline, 101. Souris getting 100 kilometer an hour wind gusts yesterday. And Brandon and Dauphin both peaking at just over 90. So some very strong winds, really concentrated to the western part of the province, basically anywhere from sort of Dauphin, maybe north of Dauphin, south of the U.S. border. Here in Winnipeg, winds peaking at about 50, 55 throughout the afternoon yesterday, so a bit of a contrast. We do have wind picking up, though, as we get into the night once again tonight. Winds 15, gusting 30 throughout the afternoon today, increasing to north 30 to 50 as we get through the day tomorrow with a bit more precipitation, which we'll get into in just a moment here. 18 in both Winnipeg and Brandon this hour, 12 in Thompson. Churchill's at 7 degrees, and Lynn Lake is at 10 at the moment. Mainly sunny skies. A few scattered showers still along northern Manitoba. This is part of that system that prompted rainfall warnings for Deline Lake. Also, wind warnings to the Hudson Bay coast, expecting winds at about 90 through the afternoon today, diminishing as we get into the night tonight. We see clouds building in late into the afternoon, early evening here in Winnipeg. This ahead of a push of precipitation that will kind of give us some showers, some maybe heavier pockets of rain overnight tonight, starting in Westman, say 10, 11 o'clock tonight, reaching Winnipeg around the midnight hour and into the Interlake region. That does quickly move out, but we do see a couple little bands of rain moving through first thing in the morning tomorrow, tapering off to mainly scattered showers by the time we reach the afternoon hours, and a mainly cloudy and windy day tomorrow. Wednesday, clearing, so we're expecting a mainly sunny day for Wednesday and sunshine to start summer officially Thursday at 3:50 p.m. Rainfall accumulation looking at about 10 to 15 millimeters across southern Manitoba. Westman in particular, say Verdun, Melita could pick up some higher pockets, 20 to maybe 30 millimeters by the time we reach sort of lunchtime on Wednesday. Today's forecast, 21 in Winnipeg and Emerson. Morden Winkler also 21 today, 19 in Brandon, 16 in Thompson. Tomorrow, 16 degrees in Winnipeg, 22 for Wednesday. And as mentioned, 26 and sunny to start summer on Thursday.
Officially starting summer.
Officially starting summer. I know there's several iterations. There's, meteorological summer, for example.
Yes.
June, July, August. The official start to summer.
We'll take it. We'll celebrate the start of summer over and over again.
A lot of people think of summer as after May long.
Yeah.
As well.
And a lot of kids think about it as after the last class. A lot of teachers think that way too. So
this version of summer starting Thursday at 3:50.
Riley Lachuk, thank you so much.
No problem.
Riley, of course, is our weather specialist here at CBC Manitoba. He'll be back during Up to Speed, the program that airs here on CBC Radio 1 between 3 and 6 p.m. today. You can also watch him on the television newscast, which is both on television and on YouTube. Hello to everybody watching on CBC Manitoba's YouTube page. All right, folks watching on YouTube, time to get your comments in. And people listening, time to call in 204-780-0893. We want to hear about your job hunt. What have you experienced in the past? What are you experiencing now? What advice do you have or questions? It is the season for convocations. Grads are finally getting that piece of paper they've been working to get for years, their diploma. But then they have to craft another important document to help them find a job, their resume. What experience have you had with job hunting or with looking for people to hire? Our call-in conversation number again, 204-788-0893. How hard is it to find a job? And what finally worked for you? 204-788-0893. Oh, 780... My apologies. 780-0893. A little typo I had in my script there. Tori McNally. Hi, I'm thrown. Tori McMick. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are Vice President of Human Resources Services for Legacy Bose. Once upon a time, I remember this time, when a company was hiring, you'd get a stack of resumes, and someone would have to read through them all. How common is that to be the way it's done these days?
So a little bit of history here. So probably about 8 years ago, there were lots of websites being formed like Indeed and Workopolis, and they put a button on their website. And so you could just apply now. And what was happening on the other side of that is the stack of resumes. It was a virtual stack, but employers were getting 1,000 resumes for a single posting. And it was taking so much time because it had to be an individual going through those resumes and trying to figure out who would be a good fit. And applicant's perspective, they could apply to 100 jobs in 20 minutes, right? And so we've got this new version now where we've automated the screening process. So artificial intelligence can actually read a resume and put it in a yes pile or a no pile. And so people are being screened out for lots of different reasons. And so I guess we're here to see how you game the system and get your resume into that yes pile.
How do you game the system? What's your recommendation for people?
So one of the things that's happened with resumes is they've become very glossy and very graphic designed. And so people think that they can stand out by having something that's really beautiful. But an AI bot actually can't read those very well. So if you had a very fancy sidebar with your skills down the left-hand side, for instance, an AI bot might miss that entirely and not be able to read it. So the thing to do, interestingly, is to make your resume a plain Word document with just simple headers and straight text. And that means that the bot can read it.
That is great advice. Keep it simple, sweetheart. That's kind of been an acronym we've used for many, many years for many, many things. And it's true for resumes as well.
Yes. And if you want to do something fancy, once you pass that AI screen, you can, when you go for your in-person interview, you can follow up with a fancier resume that has all of those graphic design bells and whistles.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good idea. 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you. What's it like looking for a job in Manitoba? I mean, there's the software to go through, but really that's just the beginning of it. What experiences have you had with job hunting or with looking for people to hire? 204-780-0893. Tori McNally, we often hear about how there is a need for workers out there, a shortage of employees. Is that still the case?
It's becoming less of the case now. I think that the job hunt is becoming harder to find. There's been lots of layoffs, not so much in Winnipeg, because the nice thing about Manitoba is we have that smooth, steady economy. But you're seeing, like in places like Calgary, the layoffs are starting to pop up again. So that's becoming more difficult. And I think that there are vacancies out there, but whether the people have the skills for the vacancies that are needed might be in question.
So how do you, perhaps there's a parent out there trying to help their child craft a resume. If you are, and you've got questions for Tori, she's here to help. Remember, you can call us now, 204-780-0893. So how do you craft, we mentioned keep it simple,
Mm-hmm.
but is there a trick to, certain words have to be there? You don't want to misrepresent yourself, do you, in your resume?
You absolutely don't. But I think that what you really need to do is think about applying for less jobs. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but spend more time on each of the applications. So what you're doing is you're looking at the job posting and you're looking at the qualifications and you're really trying to pull some experience and put that in your cover letter and put some of those keywords in, not as a copy and paste, you don't want it to look like a list of hashtags, but you need to really show that you've read the posting from top to bottom and that you're pulling out reasons why you're the best fit. So it's not really about putting 300 applications out there, and it's about focusing in on what you really can do and working hard to get those ones.
Is there a way to use artificial intelligence? Because ultimately that's what it is in the software system, right? That helps people. It's a form of. We're using that term differently now. Is there a way to use those tools to help you?
So if you're thinking about things like ChatGPT, for instance, ChatGPT can write a cover letter. Is it a good cover letter? Maybe not, but it will give you, a basic structure of what a cover letter should look like if you've never written one before, and you can get it to generate a bunch of different ones and see some samples, and you can take some wording from there and then add your own personality and character into it. So you shouldn't just have ChatGPT write a cover letter for you and then send that on in. Not going to be the best result because any human can, pick those out. But ChatGPT is getting better every day. But you do need to, you can use it as a tool in your toolbox for sure.
Do you see that? Have you physically seen people who, you're looking at the document and you're going, there's no way that a human wrote that?
Sure. And I've looked at documents where it has square bracket, insert square bracket, and you think, okay, this person didn't really spend the time that they should have spent in order to apply for this position.
And what does that make you think about somebody?
It just makes you think that they're not focusing their attention appropriately. They're probably taking that old school idea of, I'm going to sit down and apply for 100 jobs today, and that's going to be my best way through. And so I don't think that people are doing it because they're trying to be bad. I think that they're just trying the best way that they know. But I think that, the world has changed a little bit, and you've got to focus in on the best fit for you.
How has the world changed for you when it comes to looking for work? 204-780-0893. If you live outside Winnipeg, we want to hear from you. 1-800-268-5483 is our toll-free line. Please feel free to use it. We've heard some scary things about these applicant tracking systems that sometimes can be, perhaps they might eliminate people whose names are not common ones that the software developer thought of when they were putting it together. Where are we in improving that?
I think that it's always a work in progress. So we've heard many things about ChatGPT and how, for instance, it's trained on the internet, and so it has all of the biases and racism and things that exist on the internet. And so AI bots are no different. So often when somebody's using artificial intelligence to screen for resumes, they're using the organization's past hiring history. But if in the past the organization has hired, mostly white men, it's going to be looking for white men. And so you've really got to be cognizant of that and understand that there are dangers. So in some ways it's unbiased because a human can also screen somebody out for having a name that they don't recognize, but an AI bot can as well. So I think that there's similar issues with both ways. You just have to be cognizant of it.
We certainly have to be cognizant of it in this day and age as someone who's hiring. But what about as an applicant? I mean, what can you do?
I think that short of getting a new name, which I don't recommend, there are times now in this day and age where an interesting rare name might get you a foot in the door, because lots of organizations now have diversity policies where they're actually going out of their way to find people with varied backgrounds. They're looking for newcomer Canadians. And so as often as it can be a detriment to your resume, it can actually be something that puts you ahead of other people. And so I think hiring's difficult because you are really putting all of the work and effort that you've put into your career in somebody else's hands, right? And so all you can do is your very best and work hard to just make sure that you're, answering that posting specifically and putting your best foot forward that you can. And then you're just reliant on human beings to be gentle and good.
I remember when, certainly for entry-level positions, you might be able to just go in and meet the manager and shake their hand and say hello. Does that happen anymore?
You know what? I think that anything that pulls you out of that slush pile is something important for you to do. So if you know somebody, for instance, who works there, contact them and say, I saw a posting. What do you think about it? Do you think I'd be a good fit? And, you can't force somebody to put in a word for you, but you can say, I'm looking and it would be great to work with you. And, you can see that way. I think that in this day and age where people are wanting to work from home and not see each other in person, if they do have a public-facing office, sure, go down and talk to them. I wouldn't monopolize 2 hours of their time and expect too much. And if they're too busy to see you, they're too busy to see you. But, you can hook up with people on LinkedIn, for instance. You can friend what you believe might be the hiring manager and just ask them really basic questions about the job and just show that you're interested and you're doing the work. Again, it's that specific thing to say, I'm only applying to a few places. You are my dream place, and I'd like to focus my attention on you, as opposed to that, like applying all the way across across-the-board mentality.
Because no one wants to also invest in you and your training and then have you move on.
Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned networking clearly there. If you know someone, networking, that's what LinkedIn is all about. Again, does word of mouth still work?
Absolutely, yes. And I think that people trust recommendations, word of mouth. I mean, we all go to the restaurant that your friend recommended more so than, it coming up as something on Google. So hiring is absolutely no different. People might use things like AI to make the screening process quicker and easier. But really, we're all human beings, and we want to make sure that people are going to be a fit. We call it a cultural fit. So you might have all of the technical abilities and the full ability to do the job, but you also have to prove that you're going to be collaborative and fit in with the team and bring an interesting and unique perspective, but have that level of respect and be able to add to a positive workplace culture, because that is just as important now as being able, to do the number crunching if you're an accountant or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely it is. 204-780-0893. Outside of Winnipeg, 1-800-268-5483. You can also send us an email if you like, radnoonw@cbc.ca. So we get a chance for the interview. Imagine we get through that. That's where the personal stuff, I would think, the culture and really showing a little bit of who you are would be the most important. What common mistakes do you think people make when they get to the job interview part, or what advice do you have?
I think that people should be really clear about talking about the things that they have done personally and the things that they've done as a team. Sometimes I find that people come into an interview and they say, I did this and I did that. And when you check references, for instance, you realize that, no, a team of 8 did that, right? And so just be honest. You had actually mentioned it earlier to say, you don't want to lie about your qualifications. Just be honest about what you've done and be personable in the interview. The other thing that I find lots of candidates overlook is at the very end of the interview, almost every hiring manager will say, do you have any questions for us? And it's the kiss of death to say, oh no, I'm good, thanks. That is your big opportunity to ask questions about, how people like to work together and, what kind of person they're looking for and what a day looks like. I mean, you don't have to ask anything technical, but it's a real opportunity. They're opening a door for you to find out what it would actually feel like day to day to be there and take advantage of it. Because saying, no, I'm good. I know that you're nervous and I know that you really want the interview to be over. I know that you're on the homeward stretch. But I really promise that if you prepare, 2 or 3 questions in advance, just to show that you've done some homework, and that you really want this particular job, and it makes them realize how special you think their job is, and you will get that step up.
Tori McNally, that is such good advice. Thank you so much for your time today coming in.
Of course.
I'm thinking back to the job interviews where I said, no, I'm fine. No, really, I'm so intelligent. I've figured it all out. And thank you very much. Tori McNally is Vice President of Human Resources Services for Legacy Bose. To comment on what you heard here today and to keep this conversation going, remember, you can leave us a message anytime at 204-788-3797.
Angeline Tadaweo hosts The Block.
Afrobeats to jazz, hip-hop to R&B, calypso, Kez the Band, Michelle Montano, Bob Marley, Bounty Killer. So we really give all these artists a chance to shine, and the key is in the programming, in making it make sense, and making sure that the music is a fluid experience.
The Block with Angeline Tadaweo. Available now on CBC Listen.
Now let's listen to some music here. Juno-nominated folk duo Burnstick are taking time to look back on their relationship together. They wrote those feelings into their songs, which you can find on their sophomore album. Here's Burnstick with a song reflecting the time spent performing as a duo. It's called Go Back.
As the sun goes down in a cold and empty hall? Will we keep the fire aglow as we stand toe to toe? We've been through it all. Can we go back to the start? When the night was made of stars. Can we go back to the start? We've been through it all. Can we go back to the start? When the night was made of stars. Can we go back to the start? Can we go back to the start? Can we go back?
Burnstick with Go Back from their new album, Made of Sin. That album is available now. Faith Wendell also available now, sitting here right in the studio with me. Lovely to see you.
Hello, Janet. We're going to hear more about the big story from Winnipeg of the day. Winnipeg's top civil servant has resigned, and efforts to recruit a new chief administrative officer begins shortly, according to the city. You might be wondering, what is a CAO anyway? We'll talk more about the outgoing Michael Jack, what the job is, and what the city might be looking for. So stay tuned for that conversation. Also, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there seems to be a lot of insects around. And specifically, mosquitoes.
Oh, yes, I've noticed.
We're going to hear from the city about what it plans to do. So they're not just going to buzz away.
They're not going to buzz away. Now, we've had so much rain. I know the crews have been out there larviciding, doing their best, but Faith, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Up to Speed airs between 3 and 6 p.m. Of course, you can also listen to it on the News app and the CBC Listen app. Thanks so much for being with us today. I'm Janet Stewart. Thanks to Kevin Nipatebo, Dylan Longhurst, and Wendy Parker who helped with this show on the air for you today. We'll chat tomorrow. Have a great Monday.